kicking them. But yeah, hey, welcome back. Right, me and Sway's taking on the back half of the NAI national tournament brackets. Like I said, we had a couple people commenting, some interesting ones. Ledford, we brought him up in that last video. A couple you said we missed. You have an All-American, right here with Voiles at Southeastern at 133 against Aikens. A great first round match. Pretty interesting. Just highlighting a couple things that we hadn't quite touched on, had a couple interesting predictions, but yeah, man, like feel free to if you're watching these videos, chime in. I'm sure that we don't get to always make it out to the east and the west coast and see everything along that way. So yeah, if you got something fun to throw in, feel free. But yeah, man, I'll let you start it off here at 65 for us.
Yeah, looking at 165 right away, trying to get down in there. Michael Ager of St. Mary kind of surprised me at the KCAC. I didn't know who this kid was. Really didn't.
Yeah. Where's he from?
So he is, I know he's on St. Mary. Let me pull up that little roster real quick while we talk. But I do want to mention another name that pops in there. Look at who, first of all, the battle of two names that are hard to pronounce. The 14th seed and his first opponent. That's a coach's son right there.
Oh, man, I had my eye on that same match. He had a overtime match with Keller Rock at their conference tournament. So
yeah,
national finalists, and that was an early round matchup too. So another one of those examples in that Cascade, man, just kind of another wild card, thrown in there. Like, who knows? Man, if he's wrestling him close, you got to think he could do that with quite a few in the bracket.
Yeah, that is not the greatest draw, but let's look at it too. The top two guys in the Cascade are coaches' sons.
Yeah.
I mean, you're sitting back.
Montana State Northern, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you sit back and it's just, I know Coach Rock has chimed in a little bit too online, and it's just so cool. And it's like you said, we're hearing that, Kansas, Nebraska. So we don't really get to see the Cascade. We really don't get to see. And let me just state, the Southeast part of the country, NAIA has really picked up and has really helped other divisions as well. Yeah. I think we're even starting to see more of, people are starting to see teams like a Gardner Webb, a Division I, and Citadel, and some of these teams are actually wrestling the NAIA schools because of proximity, and it's giving a great opportunity, like on ESPN Plus, to where you're seeing some of these NAIs, but you're also learning about some of these D1 teams that are not called Penn State, Iowa, or Oklahoma State.
Right. So there's a lot of great athletes, like you talk about Florida, Georgia, all those areas. I mean, those guys are, though Southeastern Life, two great examples. But I mean, this wrestling that area just seems like it's exploding right now. So
yeah, a lot of great athletes. I said I'd find out about Ager there, and I'm trying to click on the roster right now.
Yep.
He's a junior. He's a junior out of Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
Well, and for people that are wondering where University of St. Mary is, that's in like Leavenworth, Kansas. So there's a lot of connections there with Washington, Oregon, that upper western part of the country. Because if people are not familiar with Chuck Carney, who is their head coach, he's been there over a decade now. He was formerly at Division I Oregon before they dropped the program, and he's got a hell of a tough team. And the KCAC hasn't had a top 10 team in a while, and this might be the year that University of St. Mary could do it. Yeah. We'll see, but this would be a pretty good one. There's another unseeded guy I really like, and that is St. Ambrose's Jaden Terranez.
Yeah.
I saw him last year when St. Ambrose came and took on a very pesky first-year JUCO program in Southeast Community College.
Oh, yeah.
Terranez is tough.
He's a pinner, man. He's a tall kid, man, and he's been around it, for a while. I think his might be going into his senior year too. So, yeah, and that little like round of 16, I mean, Jenkins and Bridger Hall, those guys are both previous All-Americans. And then, obviously you have Keller Rock that, down there, a returning finalist. I mean, this is a weight, man. I'm trying to think, kind of look around and see where some upsets might happen. But man, it's like these are pretty top heavy weight class, if you ask me, right? I mean, Cam Robinson's an Iowa State transfer.
Yeah.
And I think he's only lost one time. I think that was to man, maybe a Northern Iowa kid. I can't quite remember, but I mean, he won the Reno TOC out there. I mean, he's been as a 3 seed, man, it's a pretty tough three. So kind of interested, and he just hasn't quite man, I think Indiana Tech and Grandview they would have wrestled at national duels. It was a Indiana Tech lost a close duel. I can't quite remember to who, but I mean I've kind of been looking forward to those matchups, and they've just missed about all year long. So really interested to see how those matches go, man, with Robinson against the top two in that weight.
Yeah, and there's some other names that I recognize just because they've been around for a hot minute. Braden Baller out of Texas Wesleyan out of 16.
Yeah,
Um, it's just the Sooner a luckily the Sooner has the AMC with it, so you get a little more qualifiers out there. But he's a name that's been around forever. I do like Federico though out of Southeastern.
right.
Oh,
Well, and just because I a previous video I shared here on with Parks from Missouri Valley,
yeah.
I think he might have pinned Melvin earlier this year in their duel against Cumberland. So pin the seated wrestler that he's up against. He's a high flyer. Like he's just a dangerous dude. Like throw a lot at you. And so and we talked a little bit or a little bit yesterday about like the mindset of the national tournament, but like somebody that's like pretty fearless or like somebody that is kind of a unique wrestler will throw, like you were talking about gosh, the 41 pounder, the freestyle, name slipping off the
Oh,
Norche, or right?
oh yeah, Edric Norche out
Or
of
just
Dickinson State.
yeah, guys that have just kind of like that unknown element or like, like, man, they're dangerous. That can kind of make you wrestle a little bit tighter, right? Like those nerves are a little bit more present. So a guy like that, man, that's a pinner and without a seed right now, nothing really to lose. Those guys are, they can kind of make you hold your breath. If you're competing against them for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong. This is 165, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I want to go right back to Federico. As I mentioned, it was only like, oh, okay, January 24th, 25th. He's in the Missouri Valley invite. He makes it to the semifinals, but that was at 157.
Oh wow.
So now he's eating.
Yeah.
He's not having to cut weight. Um, and
Shoot.
I mean, in that event, he was cruising. He had a tech fall over Scott Fitz of Indiana Tech, major decision over Braden Shelton of Mo Valley, and then beat Jeff Danaski of Marion by tech fall in 2 minutes and 31 seconds, but
Wow.
then had an injury out to take sixth. And
Jeez.
his injuries, I mean, he lost to Elon Hurd, Noah Smith, Justin Windauer, who all made the tournament at 57.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's an interesting name to keep an eye. I mean, shoot, man, that weight change. I mean, it seems like, man, you go up a weight and you find yourself as a top 5 seed in the tournament, man. That's not a bad, spot to be at all. So it
Yeah.
looks like Life, they'll have, Grandview. We talked about the team race a little bit. Grandview seeded to place. Life has a 9th seeded wrestler, seated just outside of the placing rounds. Anytime you see Life or Grandview with the bye, their coaches are probably cringing a little bit, right? Because
Oh,
you
yeah.
losing a chance for bonus or opportunity to score points in a race. So this is a way like probably advantage Grandview, right?
Well, yeah, and let's look at recent history when you go look at how the NCAA went to 12 teams in the football playoffs, and what happened? All four teams that had a bye lost.
Yeah.
It
It's
could,
hard, man. I do think, just like saying having just been into that tournament, like it's, you just want to get your first match out of the way. You want to get rolling. You want to just like, just jump right in, kind of just settle the nerves, right? Get your hand raised. And then if you're just kind of sitting around, man, it's a lot of time to sit and think. And anxiety is not always the greatest performance enhancer, right? So
and you see some funky upsets, and I believe the year you won it in heavyweight. Saron Francisco, who's a beast of a dude, got pinned by a Central Baptist Arkansas kid, and then the next year, Saron's in the finals.
Yeah. And
It's all over the place.
yeah, and he had to upset to get to the fight too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
but I mean, shoot, he's talented as much as you can call it an upset, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he's obviously he's a hammer, but 74, man, this is an interesting weight for me. And then I don't know, like, so like two guys that I coached last year, man, they hit round one. So of course that all these dang kids,
Um,
both those guys out of Ottawa, two different places, making a big impact on their new team. But I was kind of bummed out to see that. Then they've wrestled once earlier this year, so Francis got the better of that one. But man, I don't care. I'm gonna be blatantly biased in this weight class. Francis, my guy, man. Francis winning it, you know.
and what seed is he? I'm going blind here.
He's seventh. He's a seventh
Seventh.
seed. Yeah. But
Okay.
hey, I have some logic behind it too, though. One,
Okay.
I know he's a gamer, one of the toughest human beings I've ever met. But he competes so freaking hard. But with that being said, I want to say this Trey Morset, he was ranked at 197 before their conference tournament. He had a
Mm.
great win over Ketchum, right? Late takedown sealed him that match, but he's coming from 197 down to 174 on a 3-day weigh-in. And
Ugh.
so as a two, really tough kid. Francis is coming up from 157 last year. So it's kind of that same dynamic where we talked about that weight management and you're not wrestling on a Saturday weighing in the morning and just get big and be on a full feed, man. I think that's a tough matchup for, Morissette for sure there.
Yeah, this 174 weight class. I'm really trying to pick out some different names.
Well,
Braylon Rookty, I mean, the fact that you're going to draw Grandview's Alex Reynolds is not good, but
yeah. What can you do?
yeah,
Um,
what can you do?
that's what that was the other one I was gonna point out. Calhoun needed a wild card to get in as a returning national finalist. And so this quarter right here between Reynolds and Calhoun is a potential national finals rematch before All Americans. So pretty big match right there too.
Yeah, and let's man, Shadrick Sloan has been hot for the last few years. When he's on, you better watch out. I hear people like Kentucky and wrestling. I tell you what, in the NAIA, if we didn't have Grandview and we didn't have life in Georgia, it's a lot of Kentucky and Tennessee that we're seeing, which
Yeah.
is great for the sport because it's spreading out the wealth, which is wonderful. But definitely a few names in here. Definitely a few schools a lot of people may not be familiar with. William Woods. I forgot about William Woods, and that's not a slight to them. They're
Yeah.
new on the scene.
Second
The,
second year program.
out of Missouri,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Against Central Methodist, also out of Missouri. Um, but yeah, the Abel Nava of Providence and Joe Lashoy or Lashue, I'm sure I'm butchering it.
Yeah.
That could be really good out of Cornerstone. Um, only took fifth last year in the Wolverine Hoosier. Only took fourth this year. Did not place at the Missouri Valley Invite, but he won. He won 4 matches and lost 2.
Yeah.
So, uh, but he had some really good, wins. He went deep. His losses were to Jevian Ross and then to Justin McCoon of Grandview, which Grandview always treats the Missouri Valley Invitational as okay. Who are going to be our last few guys in the roster? It really is. It's an
Yeah.
audition. They know who their best probably 8 are,
Yeah.
but then they see what else is going on.
Well,
But
that's interesting you bring that up. I mean, so like obviously you wouldn't question Nick Mitchell and Paul Reedy and all those guys because I mean, like, how can you, right? Track record.
yeah,
I
I
mean, they know
wouldn't.
what they're doing, but there was a couple head-to-heads where they didn't take the guy that won. So Joe Von Mitchell at 65 beat, I think he's beat Witt twice this last year. And then at 49, I want to say Ferguson beat Larson.
Yeah, and
But yeah, their guys are still obviously like highly seeded, and they have access to information we don't. But
Oh,
historically, that's how it's been. So that was kind of a curveball for me too.
and you and I know behind closed doors, it's not all about the W's and the L's.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things going on. We're going to hit on that here coming up at one of the
Okay.
weights.
Yeah.
But it's I definitely don't question
No.
what they're doing. It's a great model to follow, and honestly, that's what you've seen in life because you got a former Grandview guy that has taken the same system. If you could get an administration to buy into it and
Yeah.
let you have that many on a roster and you get so many coaches, you're going to do well. But
Yeah.
that's the thing is some of these colleges, and I'll just flat out say it, don't even pay their head coach good enough to have bodies in the room.
Try, yeah, tell me about it. Trust me, I know all too well. Kind of that deal. So, I mean, you're really, and I think you mentioned St. Mary, but Chuck made a good point. You're always like one good um admin away from being incredibly successful. Because there's some of the best coaches in the country to me aren't the teams that are bringing home trophies at the end of the day. And those guys are great, right? But I think
Yeah.
that, like what some of these coaches are asked to do with a lot less, man, is just as, if not more impressive too. So, but yeah, get back to the wrestling stuff. Like you were touching on Nava. That was a 3 seed last year at 74. He was an
Yeah.
All-American. Roman Garcia is an All-American coming up from 65. So that's a round two matchup that, I think has the potential to be pretty big too. So, man, yeah, a lot of good matches here. I mean, obviously national tournament, that'll be the case, but this is a really interesting bracket for me. But
And yeah, and I want to point one more kid out. And this kid had a tournament to qualify. Benedict Holthouse of Friends.
yeah,
That young man back in late January, he loses 9-8 in the first round of the Mo Valley Invite,
yeah,
and then later on he loses 5-3. He beat somebody else from the conference, but you're talking about a guy that if it goes the full 7 minutes,
yeah,
he's in the fight, and he's had before the semester break, this is a kid that went up to the very tough Connor Oppenheim Open, which is Doane University hosts that, and he went on a rampage. He loses first round to Jet Nelson of Graceland, 7-3.
yeah,
But then he beats Sam Moore of Morningside, Brent Ward of Concordia, Caden Martin of Arizona Christian. Then he avenges his loss and beats Jet Nelson 7-0.
yeah,
Um, Ended up ahead of Barrett Brandt, who defaulted out. But then he ran into Cody Anderson
yeah,
of Grandview, who, Cody Anderson not listed in this weight, but
yeah. I mean, they're all good.
they're all,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that next man up mentality. It's good to have that problem.
Hey, and home field advantage, right, friends? Right there in Wichita. So,
Yeah,
hey, moral of that story: don't catch that dude on the backside, right? Because
I yeah, it seems like the first round typically it's not the best, but and that might just be it. He might get on a roll.
yeah,
And like I'm trying to figure it out. He'd probably get if he loses that first one, he probably gets the loser of I think Crawford and Ketchum.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's a decision for those guys though too. Like you said, like catch these high seeds that go in with everybody wants to win a national title, right? I
Oh,
think that's a given, but some of these guys are title or bust. And so like on that backside, those
oh,
guys, not everybody those high seeds, not all those guys want to fight back, the same way. So
that's that is absolute truth. And it's an eye opener for some people. Some people really too. They get to this tournament and I know it's not your typical tournament, but there's some people that the lights are on. And it's like how some wrestle better at tournaments and duels. There's some people, you scratch your head. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see. I do want to say one other name that I think is really worth watching in this bracket. Tyson is Stover at the 13 seed. He has a win over Jonathan Ward, which Jonathan Ward is up here from Texas Wesleyan. He only beat Ward 4-3 at the Grandview Open. his two losses were to Division I guys there, Aiden Riggins and Wade Mitchell.
Yeah.
Wade Mitchell in Northern Iowa, but Aiden Riggins of Iowa State. But that Stover and Holthouse could be really interesting early on. But Ward, unseeded Ward, keep an eye on him with Calhoun
Yeah.
at that 8 spot.
And Calhoun dropped a match early at conference. He's tough, but like he said, he right now maybe he's a little bit vulnerable, for an upset. So
And
yeah,
and a year ago, by the way, Stover at 174 was fifth at the Mo Valley Invite, and he had holy buckets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins. He went 7-2 to finish fifth.
man, that's hard to do now. They barely let you wrestle that much,
I know, I know.
And
So he's
no,
got
he's
some solid wins.
another one of those cascade guys, right? That like we talked about, that gets hot at the right time and keeps it rolling into this tournament. Hey,
Oh,
I'm keeping my
absolutely.
bet. I'm just gonna. Hey, I said it first. I'm gonna say it last. Francis, go get us one, man.
There you
So
go.
the yeah. So 84. Guess what? Spoiler alert. Probably gonna be biased on this one too, but for good reason. For my guy here, JD Perez, #1 seed, but have to touch on it again. We just talked about the buys. This is probably right on a team of really talented individuals, right? One of the guys that's going in the tournament undefeated, the AAC Wrestler of the Year, stuff like that. This is a guy that you would love to see have a first round match, get some bonus, get his tournament going, for your team. So advantage, who knows? And then you got Cole's here from Grandview, so you got another weight. Well, you get two wrestlers here from Live.
Yeah, on the same side.
Yeah, and that'll be an interesting match, right? They haven't
Yeah.
competed yet this year.
Yeah, I would assume they're the heavy favorites to meet up against each other. There's definitely a few other names that kind of rock the boat in that upper part of the bracket. Colton Kmeyer of Doane, not
Yeah,
seated. He's tough as nails. He's qualified a few times. Um, man, JD Perez, that might be the best 16 seed across all brackets, in my opinion.
this
Uh,
Temujin.
Temujin Mindbeleg,
Yeah,
just when you thought it was only Doane that knew how to get a hold of the Mongolian kids, he's
yeah,
tough. He's
yeah,
extremely tough. But I want to get you to a match that really this match, and it's because we're Kansas kids too. You look at the 11 spot on the bracket with Coles and
yeah,
Volova, and here is why this match just piques my interest. Few years back, they were in the same bracket at the NJCAAs.
yeah.
Coles was the 5th seed and won the national title. Volova was against the 4 seed and beat the 4th seed.
Oh wow.
I went back and looked, and I couldn't find where they dueled or even met up in the conference back then.
Yeah,
But I tell you what, he had a different level. I had totally forgot about it.
yeah,
Volova, Labette alum, and then of course Coles went to what was then known as Northwest Kansas Tech. It's now Fort Hays Tech Northwest, just to confuse everybody even more. But that match has a lot of intrigue for me.
yeah. Dating back.
And the winner gets Knudsen of Eastern Oregon. So that whole bottom half of the bracket, though, to me is just pure nasty.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
nasty.
man. Burns was, I'm pretty sure, was an All-American a year ago, and he'll run into, Tyson's kind of had the 3 seed there. I mean, he's had a great regular season all the last couple years, and he was a former national finalist, right? In 3, 4 years ago, Doane here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, he's a previous finalist, but All-American, 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 right? So all right there in that quarter, man. It's gonna be interesting to see who comes out of that one.
uh, Justin Barty. And where did I just see his name
He's
at?
on
Oh,
right by Tyson, yeah, right there.
so Justin Barty. I mean, this is a guy that took 6th at the Missouri Valley Invite, had some good wins. Um, I'm trying to look at some of the other names. He got leveled though by Minbeleg. Minbeleg made the consolation finals at Mo Valley. In fact, I'm trying to look it up real quick to see. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
This is another one of the ones where the upsets real I mean, like you're talking about he makes a good run, things like that. But being a 16 seed probably isn't great, right? Like you
yeah,
just as well off not being seed and getting drawn in and trying to find somewhere in the bracket and just locks you into that one seed. And Jackson King, as a 15 seed, right? Better off probably not being seeded, but I mean, he just beat Coles at their conference tournament, right?
yeah,
So he's
yeah,
return All American, and yeah, that's two in a row of like unseeded guys that do pretty well and kind of just locks them right into the um, top two seeds in the tournament.
yeah. And looking at Mendbeleg, he made the front side semis up at Missouri Valley, and he beat Kmeyer 7-1, beat Barty of Rio Grande, and it is Rio for people that don't know. Beat him 11-6, beat Bodorf of William Penn, I believe it is, 11-2, then lost to Burns of Montana State. Is Burns in this bracket?
Yeah, he's down there at the 14.
Okay. So he beat Burns. No, Burns beat him 6-5.
Yeah,
But then on the backside of the bracket, Menbeleg beat Barty again in 28 seconds. So I'm sure he's got that Mongolian mischief up his sleeve and knows how to do stuff.
yeah,
Um, I do think another fun possible match is in that 10 seed Thomas Ketchen Carter uh, of Cumberland's and Joseph Tegia of Graceland. I think that could be another one. But like you said, sometimes I think you just would rather get drawn in because honestly, there is that mechanism in tournament bracketing too, where, you know, for life, okay, you got one in the four, you're getting seated. But if your guy's like on that cusp of being 16 and you got a one seed, you
yeah,
just like, oh no, he'll get put to the other side just because of how our technology is all drawn up. But the
yeah.
Tegia individual, I think he'll do okay. But yeah,
A lot of previous All Americans like this is kind of a match that I'm curious about, like Twait and Norfleet, because this dude just had a crazy Cascade tournament, which it stop me if you've heard it before, but he beat Knudsen as a previous All American, then he beat Hobbs as well, and those are two previous All Americans. So this is another bracket that these seeds probably shifted quite a bit just based on that conference alone, because I think Knudsen or Knudsen or however you say it, like
yeah.
he was up their ways, and Hobbs, previous All American, up their ways, and he kind of was able to jump over both of those guys. So that's a really interesting matchup right there between Norfleet and Swait potentially. So
And I just forgot I had this noted down. So the number 2 seed, the number 3 seed, and the number 11 seed,
yeah,
they are in the country the number 2, the number 5, and the number 10th leaders in takedowns. In fact, right there at number 2 spot, Speed of Lords, 90 takedowns versus 1.
hey,
So
guess who
you,
that guess who that one was?
I have no idea.
He up at that
JD
he
Perez.
up at that number one spot. You know what I mean? We get all
Okay.
90 of his too. So JD
Oof.
JD got his no, I'm just playing with you, man. They got a chance to wrestle a little earlier this year, and he did pretty well, and they've matched up 3 or 4 times over the years. It's been a fun match. So
Yeah.
but dude, yeah, I'm really excited for him, and like I said, admittedly, so I'm gonna be biased. I got a chance to coach JD for 4 years, and like I don't think he gets enough credit for like he had to be a little bit more than an athlete for a growing program and stuff, and we put a lot on his plate, and so he's a phenomenal wrestler, better human being, and as much as you can deserve or earn something or wish something, like I hope he gets what he's looking for this weekend. So
And one more quick before we get off 184, Kendall Norfleet, formerly an Arizona State wrestler.
yeah, well, was he or his brother?
He was there too. So he actually was there in 2021-22, where he redshirted, but was 10-3 during the red shirt. So Yeah, but his brother Cordell
Yeah, that's one.
was there as well. So
He's
yeah,
impressive, man. He's good. Like
yep.
he had one kind of funky injury default loss. I want to say it was to Ketchin Carter, but I mean I think he got a concussion during the match or during a duel and kind of pulled in the middle and so I mean other than that, another guy like not too many blemishes on his record, but
Yep.
um 97, like I mean this is pretty G-Pack heavy, so I figured you might know a little bit more than me. I mean just in terms of, kind of having the, Grape and Ansberg, and it feels like that's been two of their, most reliable guys there for a number of years. I thought it was interesting. I mean, I feel like Hines and Ansberg have wrestled like a million times, like you know what I mean, just over the years. Both I think All Americans each of the last 2 years, right? For at this weight class.
So yeah, Bradley, man, he has been there for a while. Sophomore year, third place at 197, fourth place 21-22. Was a national qualifier during that COVID year. Um, the thing a lot of people don't know about Bradley Annisberger was before that he was an All-American in the NCWA. So what a lot of people call the club level for Dixie State University, which is now, oh my gosh, it's called something else now. Utah Tech.
Oh, okay.
They got away from the Dixie moniker. And anyway, um, yeah. So he's been around a while, and that didn't count as um, eligibility. So he's had the NCWA, he's had the COVID shirt, he's had about everything except for the national title. So he's gone fourth, third. I know he's ranked second, but would like to finish higher. But
Yeah.
Gavarius Kukabaka, yeah, that
Yeah. GK.
Gavarius, yeah, GK. That's, I mean,
Hey, one of the last guys that beat him, I want to say might have been Riker Blackburn. I remember, but it was a ways back. I think it was not this year, but last year's Falcon Invite. I think he might have pinned him. But Riker's a pinner, and he's got like a really hard body type to wrestle. He's massive. Like, um, you just got to call his matches, man. He's a big boy.
yeah, he's one of those guys that he's tough for so many reasons. I think it's a third or fourth generation leathersmith. And
Oh wow.
so
Yeah.
he actually goes there in Leavenworth. There's a wrestling owned company, and it's American Leatherworks. And if you are familiar with Eric Hinckley, who has been
Oh yeah.
on many of our veteran world teams, Eric Hinckley's the owner. He found out about Blackburn and is like, oh, come on over. So they shoot the breeze
That's
and
awesome.
fix leather. But yeah, interesting weight. In 2023, Kroll was the number 10 seed. Now he faces the number 10 seed. And
Yeah.
so you've got all sorts of different mixes and matches. Corona Southern Oregon won 7-6 over Vanek, and Vanek is 10. Corona is the 14. So I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a lot of guys that are kind of right in that mix that have beaten each other up. Um, so we'll see. Another Grandview guy getting a bye. You
Yeah.
know,
And there's a potential
oh
meeting
life
right
match in
there.
the quarters.
Yeah. And Khalil, I don't know him personally. I kind of just followed, on social media, but I think he's got a pretty unique story. I want to say he's like 31, maybe. Like he's his moniker or his handle on Instagram is Life You Wrestling Daddy or something, or Dad, or I'm not quite sure, but he got a unique story. I think he stepped away from it a little bit, and kind of coming in and trying to finish it on his own terms, which is admirable for anybody that finds their way back. And man, if you're 30 plus years old and you're making it through a college wrestling season, like you already have my respect, man. So good
uh
for you. It's a young man's game, that's for freaking sure.
that's right. And his last kind of national exposure, he did wrestle at the national duels. and he did not have a lot of mat time. He won 2 matches by fall, one in 45 seconds, the other in a minute 37. So us old guys don't want to be out there for a long time.
No, got that
But
grown
you
up
all
thing.
but you got to be smart though too with pacing, because if you're not, it could be
Yeah.
pretty bad. But I think he'll do fine.
Weather the storm, man, and
Yeah,
go from there. But yeah, man, I think that's probably to me, this is most interesting quarter for me is like I just mentioned down there. It's Ansberger. Vanek was a previous All-American, Hines previous, multiple time All-American. You said Kroll was a previous All-American, correct?
yeah, I believe that's right. And then I had some other notes. Smith of
Yeah.
Southeast, I had something about him.
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't even see him on there.
You said Southeastern Smith.
Yeah.
He's there right there at the left. So he's right. Um in
Oh, I
that
see him. Oh, with Werner.
Yep. And Warner
So
was
yeah,
pretty highly ranked, and I think needed a wild card before.
and I think
Yeah.
Werner, yeah, before the tournament. Oh, I see what I wrote before the tournament. Before the everybody qualified, Smith was 11, Werner was 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yick.
Yeah. I that's what I mean, man. Like you're doing the best you can. Like I said, hadn't been on those committees. Like it's so hard to figure out what to do. Like, you have your criteria of head to heads, which Cascade, you don't see it all the time. And so some of those guys that even if they don't place or somebody makes a run, sometimes it's hard to know where to place those guys.
Yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
yeah, man, this will be a interesting one. I if had forced to pick somebody, it's hard to like GK's got a really cool story too, and he's just a guy like he just gets substantially better like every you know what I mean? Like he's not staggering, not like he did. It seems like he just really widened the gap on most people that he's wrestling. So I think it would
Yeah,
be one of the bigger upsets in the tournament if that dude doesn't. Well, yeah, as much as you can say between Ansberger and guys that have been equally, successful like longevity wise, I think it would still be a pretty big upset if GK lost. At this
yeah.
moment.
I do too, and I absolutely love Annisberger, but I would think they both have a good chance of making the finals. But that the semis, if it's the top four make it through,
Yeah, that'd
it's
be
that's
fun.
it's gonna be fire.
Be fire.